Here's a first look at three tools that are available as an advanced feature of analytics dashboards. And those would include page context, tabs, and disclosures. These are similar concepts. Page contacts, tabs, and disclosure allow you to organize related or complementary data in an efficient manner in a Compass Analytics page. They're different in that a page contacts allows a dimension lookup to filter through various work areas on a single page, whereas tabs and disclosures are ways to efficiently organize different queries and browsers into a single workspace. So let's take a look at the page context first. So you'll notice on the page in question there are three separate queries that all relate to clerks or salespeople and tracking performance. In the top left hand corner we see a query related to POS returns, on the bottom is monthly sales, and in the top right hand corner is a gauge tracking percent of sales goal. Now notice in the top left hand corner I show a lookup in the area of the page context is indicated as clerk code. I'm going to break this apart, but before we do, notice I'm indicating information for Leah currently on the page, and as I select a different clerk, I'm going to select Derek, you'll see automatically all of the work areas on the page refresh, show me information for the clerk in question, the dimension chosen. I'm going to pick one more user to see that refresh. So now I show Sally's information, and you'll see the work areas refreshed to indicate that filter. Okay, well, how does that work? Let's break that apart to look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on the clerk code. I'm going to remove that, and up in the page menu I'm going to hide page context. We'll break this and we'll put it back together. I'm going to point to the query that I have in the top right hand corner of the screen, and let's break that out into Designer View to look at it for a moment. Notice that I'm showing sales target and clerk, and in the filter I indicate clerk. You'll notice as I point to that I show my clerk Sally, indicating my previous selection. If I right click and clear that snapshot and then refresh, I'm going to see values for multiple clerks. I no longer have that filter on that particular dimension. So the filter on the clerk is the piece that actually makes all of this go. The fact that I pulled the dimension in question into the filter on. Let me right click and go back into dashboard view now. Now, as I look at this now, I don't have anything that ties that whole page together. I'm going to set that up in something called page context. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to point to page on the menu bar, and then point to show page context and select that. Now, I've got a page context area at the top of the screen. As a default, this will say page context. I've gone through and changed the title to clerk/salesperson tracking. Let me get something into this field though. Notice in percent of goal, the query on the top right hand corner, currently I don't have anything displayed in there. Alright, one simple way to get page context in is to just insert analytics. That will open up an analytics window. I'm going to now go down to the dimension in question and just drag that up into the page context area. As I do that, I've got a look that's similar to the lookups I see elsewhere throughout Compass Analytics. So I'll choose a list here. As I do that, I'm going to just delete this work area in the bottom right hand corner now. I don't really need that. Notice then I have a lookup that's similar to a lookup that would be available in a single query, but as I now enter clerk information, that filter then is applied across all of the queries in page that have that same filter applied. And again, we'll show Derek and we'll see that auto refresh. And then again, finally pointing back to clerk, which is displayed in the filter area of each one of these queries. Notice that as I point to each of the tooltip that indicates the selected value. Just once more for good measure. Here's Sally again. So now as I point to each one of those filtered items, filter dimensions, you'll see that the value selected from the context, page context filters throughout the page wherever that's used. Okay, so that's one feature. Let's look for a moment then at another feature, which is kind of the reverse of page context in a way. Instead of having one filter that applies to multiple work areas on a page, this gives me the ability to put multiple queries in a work area. And on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see this. I'm using something. I'm using tabs, and then on the right side of the screen, I'm using disclosures. And you can think of a tab as a horizontal disclosure, or you can think of a disclosure as a vertical tab. I'll start pointing out this. The part of the section on the left side of the screen shows orders that are in process, and in this case, I have an order fulfillment process where I'm tracking orders with different statuses. So the first status I've checked is items that are in point of sale. They're not ready to be fulfilled. Somebody's still working on these. Notice immediately to the right of that is a tab that indicates ready, and these are orders that are ready to begin fulfilling. And notice as I click on that tab, I'll see those items. Now I have another tab for items that are in process. These are currently being fulfilled. And then finally a tab for items that are available to ship. So how did we do this? We'll break this open for a moment, and I'm going to just create a new page and indicate how that was actually created. So as I select page, I'm just going to create a new blank page. All right, my queries are already built, and I assume at this point that you know how to build queries, but as I start to place these queries in tabs, here's how I'm doing that. In a new blank page, I'm going to insert analytics, and then I'm going to open a query. And here's the query that indicates the first status or the first tab that I want to have in that particular dashboard. So as I show this, I'm going to point to the title above the ribbon and right-click and insert tab. As I do that, notice tab 1 is created and tab 2 is created, and the information on tab 1 is hidden. So now I'm on tab 2. I'm going to insert analytics here. Let me open the next query that I've previously prepared, which shows my items that are in the status of ready to be processed. And then I'm going to go to the title bar here, and I'm going to insert another tab. And in that tab, I'm going to insert analytics, and I'm going to open a query for things that are in process of being fulfilled. Notice I have tab 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to right-click on the title bar again and insert another tab. Tab 4, I'm going to insert analytics, and I'm going to open my previously created query. Of course, I could create queries in here, but my assumption is I want to build these queries beforehand and then place them where I need them. So as I look at each one of these, I'm going to go ahead and right click and place this in dashboard view. Right click, I'm going to place each of these in dashboard view. Right click, dashboard view. Right click, dashboard view. And then additionally, I want to rename these tabs so that they indicate the content on that tab. So as I right click on the tab, you'll see that I have the opportunity to change the title, which is for tab 1. I'm going to change that to POS. I'm sorry, rename tab. POS. Tab 2, I'm going to the change here would be the title bar. It was a mistake. Change title to ready. Sorry. Rename tab to ready. Rename tab to in process. And then rename tab to ship. Let's go ahead and change our title back to something that makes sense here. Order status. So now I have a page where I can easily see the progress. If I move from the left to the right, I can see the progress of those queries staged in a way that makes sense. Now in this case, I used the same query, modified it slightly. It wouldn't necessarily have to be that way. However, it makes sense for the data in this case to organize the progression from left to right in a way that's logical. So that's the tab. Now, let's go back to the page that we were working with, order processing and delivery. And then you'll notice on the right-hand side of the screen, I have a number of disclosures. And disclosures, again, I indicated, are very similar to tabs in the vertical. In this case, I have a page that's set up to assist with tracking shipping. And you'll notice as I click on each disclosure, I have disclosure here for DHL tracking, and I'm on the DHL tracking page. Here, if I select FedEx tracking, you'll notice that disclosure expands down, and now I have the FedEx tracking page, and here's the UPS tracking page. And these are all browsers, as one would normally set those up. There's USPS. And then for our truck, I have this link to a internal resources, in this case, a file on the local on my local client, but it could be a network resource as well, where I'm tracking internally status, in this case, status of things that are delivered on my truck. So, for example, for UPS, I'm on the UPS tracking page, and it's just conveniently located to be able to be efficient in the way I'm looking up information. Now, I would assume that I'm going to very often paste information, cut and paste from other applications. But in this case, I'm going to just do some manual entry or tracking to show that I can track information right here within the Compass Analytics dashboard without leaving and going to another application. In this case, I'm showing a delivery that was tracked and it was left on porch, and I could click the link for proof of delivery or navigate to other resources, internal or external. So that's a disclosure. Let's break that apart and look and see how we created it. I'm going to move back to this other page that we created when we were creating the tabs to show that. Now on the page, the new page that we're using for example, I'm going to go to the page and I'm going to insert a new work area on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and insert a browser into that work area. As I go to the address bar, if I do my work ahead of time, I can just simply type in the URL, or if one's lazy like me, I can open up a browser and track, find my DHL tracking. I can browse to find my my website as well. So here's the DHL tracking website. And so now I have the browser here. I want to insert a disclosure. I'm going to right click on the title bar and I'm going to insert a disclosure. Very similar to tabs, you'll notice then that a disclosure area 2 is displayed. Disclosure area 1 is still out there and it's got my browser that I selected. Again, I could place a query in here, but for this demonstration I'm going to show browsers. And so again, in disclosure area 2 now, I'm going to click on browser. I'm going to insert a browser area, and on the title bar there I'm going to indicate the address of, again, I'm going to search for the URL, but I could type that in as well if I had that information. I'm going to size this down. Notice that that's something that I can save as I open these disclosure areas too, is the horizontal or the vertical size of this thing. So just like with the tab areas, then as I compress those, I can right click and change the name of that disclosure area. And I'm going to call this DHL tracking. So I'll navigate back to the delivered process. In the case of navigating to the internal resource, you'll notice in the address bar, I just simply pointed that to a local resource, which I can do for, this is also a great way to, if there's documentation that you want available in Compass Analytics. So to review, there are 3 tools that I want to point out that we'll make use of in creating advanced analytics dashboards. Page context, which allows me to create a filter which then filters to all of the work areas on my page that are thus filtered. And tabs and disclosures, which are ways of efficiently organizing multiple types of information in the same work area.